Record Sport Facebook Live. My name is Daniel Conn. I'm delighted to be joined all the way from Rotterdam by Record Sport's Michael Gannon and Scott McDermott. Guys, how are you?
Good, Daniel. How are you?
Oh, good, yeah. I thought we said live from Rotterdam there for a second. I've had a detour, I went the wrong place.
How's the trip been so far?
Pretty eventful, apart from, usual travel delays and all that stuff. But we're in one piece, ready for the game tonight. Should be quite an exciting match. First game in the Champions League. Should be good fun.
Absolutely. That's the only thing we've really got to focus on. Obviously, a massive game for Celtic, back amongst Europe's big boys. And just saying off air there, Scott, I feel that there is a bit of a, what's the way to put it? I think Celtic fans are a bit worried about the game tonight. I was a bit more confident, but they are a good team, Feyenoord.
I think every Scottish team, Daniel, going into the Champions League group stage would worry now just because of the levels you're up against and the quality. When the group came out, Celtic fans probably thought it was okay. They'll probably managed to avoid the real big guns, but you're still talking about the Dutch champions. You're still talking about Atletico Madrid. They've been in Champions League finals in recent years. And we all know Lazio are a good side as well. So I think there's always going to be a wee bit of apprehension getting into these games. You saw what happened with Rangers last season. The draw wasn't kind to them at all. With defeats. Even when Brendan Rodgers was here first time around, you think the Barcelona games, the PSG games. So that's what can happen at this level. So I get it. I think there is a wee bit of apprehension getting into these games, but certainly listening to Brendan Rodgers last night, listening to Joe Hart at the press conference, the players seem like they're ready for it. I think you'll probably see a wee change in them in terms of how they approach it tactically, and there's certainly a belief there that they can actually go in and compete.
Mm-hmm. And Mick, obviously on tonight's opponents specifically, the last three games they've won 6-1, 5-1 and 6-1. As Scott says, the Dutch champions. It's a pretty formidable task, but as Scott also mentioned, the draw could have been a lot worse for Celtic. Does this draw represent a chance for them to get beyond Christmas?
It should do, but listen, the draw you could say has been kind, but what it isn't, sometimes in these group stages you think we'll take two big guns and then fight out for that third spot, maybe even second spot. But this group looks like it's got four teams who all think they've got a chance of getting the top two spots or even that third spot, which I think would be success as well, by the way. Mentioning third in the group regardless. Feyenoord, listen, all right, they scored 17 goals in the last 3 games without a striker. They've had a lot of injury problems up front, which that suggests that they're going to be dangerous. In saying that, they've not really played anyone yet, really. The teams they beat heavily were kind of relegation fodder. And in Holland, these teams can get regular kind of doings. So I think you maybe take that at a pinch of salt as well. But they're also a quality outfit, and that's the thing. Celtic, at some point, Celtic are going to need to perform at this level. They haven't done it for a long time. They've kind of last year they kind of threatened to do bits and pieces and didn't hold it together for 90 minutes at a time. But they really are overdue a performance in Europe, particularly from home, where the record's not been great. I think the last time that went from home would be Anderlecht in the Champions League under Brendan last time. And that night was a great performance. They'll need something similar. I get the trepidation amongst the fans because, listen, Celtic are going in here without Cameron Carter-Vickers, without Leila Bada, centre-half issues. They're very inexperienced at centre-back. Nat Phillips sounds to me like he might not make it after rolling his ankle the weekend. He's not played much football. Played 45 minutes, first time since January. So all the ingredients are there for a really tough night. So we'll have to wait and see. But if they pull a result off it, I think it'll be a bit of a surprise. But you never know.
Scott, Mick touched on it there. I think the one area that Celtic fans are concerned is defence. I mean, if Nat Phillips doesn't make it tonight, I mean, you're looking at Liam Scales back in there, who's done well recently, to be fair, and Lager Bielka, but that's not the defence that Brendan Rodgers would want in the opening Champions League game. Is that fair?
No, far from it. Cameron Carter-Vickers, I don't think you can underestimate just how big a loss he is to Celtic. He's the first choice centre-back. He's the best they've got. And they've had to do without him for a kind of lengthy spell now. I mean, to be honest, Daniel, I thought, I mentioned this to Mick on the way over. I mean, I think if Brendan Rodgers had more centre-backs at his disposal, he would have thought about a back five the night, just because of the opposition, because of the nature of the game. I think he would have looked at playing 3 centre-backs. And listen, he still could. I mean, if Nat Phillips makes it, which I agree with Mick, I don't think he will, but if he did, he could get in there with Lagerbielke and Scales. There's also the option maybe moving Alistair Johnson into play right centre-back, which he's done international level before. So he's maybe got 1 or 2 options, but he's really limited in there. And I think for that reason, Rodgers will probably have to go with a back 4, even though, as I say, I'm convinced that he would have thought about a back 5 if he had more centre-backs available. So listen, it's a major problem. It's a major problem anyway, but when you're getting at this level, Champions League away game against the Dutch champions, you want your strongest 11 available, and unfortunately he's not going to have that.
Mick, in the comment section there, Johnny's written in saying the way that Leicester played away at the Etihad and places like that is how Celtic will approach it tonight. Do you think, given the sore ones that Rodgers' first Celtic team took in the Champions League, do you think he will alter his tactics? Usually he just plays his football and goes for it, but you think he will change tonight?
No, I think without a doubt he'll be pragmatic and he'll play a certain way. We actually touched on that Leicester Man City game last night with Brendan Rodgers. He referenced that game. Well, we did to him, and it's true. He also learned a lot from his run with Leicester to the last 4 of the Conference League as well. So I think, listen, there's a bit of a myth about this going to big teams and all that stuff and getting punished. And he went to Barcelona and the back 5 and all that stuff, and it still didn't really work. So he will be pragmatic. How that translates to the pitch, I don't know. The thing he's got pace up front that he can hit in the break, so that is an option. On the counter is a good weapon for Celtic. I just think that Celtic, listen, they've got injury problems, and you've got to take that into account. I just think though that this Champions League, they have to make a decent fist of this, otherwise there's going to be questions asked. Because listen, at least the figures last night, they've got plenty of money in the bank. And they have invested on the pitch. Listen, you can't say they've not spent money. They've spent 60 million plus in the last 2 transfer windows, the last 2 seasons, sorry. But does it translate to in the squad on the pitch? This looks like a group that is achievable. Second place would be achievable in if they were at full strength and had tooled up. Have they strengthened enough for the Champions League in the summer? I don't know. We'll find out. I suspect not. And if they don't get results and don't perform at a decent standard in this campaign, I think punters are going to say, wait a minute here, what is going on? Why haven't we strengthened for Europe? Because that was talking to someone was being competitive in Europe. And they have to be. So they have to be competitive in Europe. And I get the fact that there's the problems, injuries, and that's not helping matters, and it's going to make it difficult. But have they got the strength and depth to compete at this level? We'll find out, but the better. Otherwise, there are going to be questions getting asked.
See, just finishing off with the Celtic team, Scott, I would say this, that Rio Hatate has got to play tonight. He's got to play. I know he's been out injured. He came on at the weekend against Dundee. But in my opinion, he's a special player. This is the nights that he's there for. And he could really be critical in Celtic getting a result.
I agree. I think Hatate will start. Me and Mick spoke about this. I don't know if, obviously, Brendan Rodgers normally goes with his 4-3-3. So you would think, Keane go up top. It would have been a bad maybe, but you're talking about Yang or others. I just wonder whether he'll try and shore up a wee bit the midfield and play Hatate and Turnbull tonight, along with McGregor and O'Reilly, just to be a wee bit more pragmatic. He's got enough pace there with Kyogo and Maeda up top. I mean, how he actually shapes that team, I'm not so sure. But no, I agree with you. Listen, Hatate's one of Celtic's best players. Well, he had a few issues at the start of the season between injuries and the transfer window and stuff. But Rodgers has talked him up in the last couple of weeks. He got some minutes on Saturday, and I fully expect him to start tonight's game.
Right. And do you agree, Mick? Do you think he will be in from the start?
Yes. Yeah, he got some good minutes on the pitch the weekend. Looked really, really sharp, actually. You've got if he's anywhere close to full fitness or fitness, you need to get him on the pitch. He's one of his best players, and I think he's great because he can. I mean, he's an attacking midfield player by kind of trade, but he can also do the dirty stuff as well. And Mark Hindle need that as well. So yeah, I agree with Scott. I think I can see him going with kind of slightly more rigid shape this evening. and using using Maida and Kyogo's out ball. I don't think they can afford to sit in right enough. I know they show the Ibrox they can do that. They can sit in deep and defend balls into the box. I don't know if they'll do that tonight. I think trying that for 90 minutes would be risky. So I think they've got to try and take the game to Feyenoord. But I don't think they want to make it a basketball match. I mean, we saw it in Europe last year. The games were a wee bit chaotic. Celtic caused a lot of problems, but they also were wide open to damage on the break. I think the games against Leipzig were a good example of that, weren't they? And even the Shakhtar games as well. So I think keeping it organised, keeping the shape, disciplined, I think it's going to be key. I don't think it's smart to go all guns blazing, because I think Feyenoord have the ability to pick you off and do that.
And I do think that Feyenoord know that they'll be in a tough game tonight. Arne Slot saying last night, Scott, that Celtic are a level above Rangers, comparing it to the PSV time. They first of all, do you think that's fair? Do you think that's a fair comment?
Well, I mean, Celtic have only lost the Scottish Premiership once in the last 10, 11 years, so I think that's pretty obvious for their manager. I don't know, it's a wee bit of mind games or no, but no, listen, they'll know Celtic are a decent outfit. I mean, although Celtic didn't get points on the board last year in the Champions League, they did get a lot of plaudits for the way they played. And they have they have played against big teams or gone away from home and caused a bit of trouble. As Mick said, unfortunately, defensively they've not been able to keep teams out, and that's what will have to change this season. But listen, I think Feyenoord will know that they're in for a game. I know you mentioned their form earlier on. I mean, I spoke to a couple of Dutch journalists last week. I mean, they're not that convinced about Feyenoord. I think they feel that there's not a lot of big stars in this team. I think the star is the manager. I think Slot's so highly rated over here. He's obviously linked to the Tottenham job in the summer. I think he's the real key. I mean, they're obviously missing. I think they're missing Jimenez tonight with suspension, which apparently is a real kind of big blow to them. So, no, everything's not perfect for them, even though they had a good result at the weekend. But it was a result people would have expected them to get. So, I mean, listen, as we touched on at the very start, I know you're saying Celtic fans are slightly concerned going into this, but I fancy Feyenoord to win tonight. I don't think it'll be a big winning margin. As I say, I expect Celtic to score. Unfortunately, I think Feyenoord will probably score more because of the defensive problems that Celtic have got.
Although, in fairness, Mick, Feyenoord are missing a couple of players of their own.
Yeah, they're really struggling up front, as you can tell with the 17 goals in the last 3 games. A striker, which is a good achievement. They're missing Uda up front, the Japanese striker, who also Kyogo replaced for his national team the other week. He's missing, so they've not got the problems to seek, Feyenoord, but they've been getting by in the domestically. This is not a Man City or an Arsenal or a PSG. It's a decent European team. I mean, the Dutch champions for a reason. And we saw PSV, and I know that stuff about being a cut above Rangers, but listen, he's not saying it's not statistically true. Celtic are champions of Scotland. They beat Rangers last week, so he's not out of line saying that. But at the same time, I think Feyenoord are better than PSV. So it doesn't get any easier for Celtic. But they need to go and be competitive. Listen, this is the level that Celtic see themselves at. They can't go into this game just thinking they're going to make numbers and get out of here without any damage. So they need to go and compete and give them a game. I think they will. I think the manager seems to have a bit about him this week, and he's kind of bullish despite the problems. So I agree with Scott. I think Celtic will give them a good game. But again, defensively, I can't see them keeping them out long enough to get a win. But listen, it's about time Celtic pulled out a result at the hat in Europe. So you never know. It could be tonight.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Mick, that Celtic fans can stomach, losing to a Man City, a Barcelona, or PSG. But Celtic should be competitive against Feyenoord. They really should. They should be over 2 games in this group. I would suggest better than Feyenoord, really, or aiming to be.
Well, listen, we can't hear any of this nonsense about we can't compete financially and all that stuff, because Celtic's budget is at least on a par, or if not more than Feyenoord. So they can't have this argument about, Europe can't compete financially, these teams in Europe. Well, they can. This is a team that's very comparable with Celtic and Rangers at that kind of level of finances, same as PSV were. So it comes to who's a better team. So that excuse is right out the window. I mentioned injuries is a big problem, but Celtic should be expected to compete with Feyenoord. Should be. I mean, shouldn't we just thinking this is a formality? But sorry, talk about it. They've got to go and do it.
No, absolutely. Right, before we round up, guys, this is one of the reasons as well I would suggest that Brendan Rodgers came back to Celtic to make more of a fist of it in Europe, to potentially go into the last stages. I think it's mental when you think that the last two-legged European knockout ties Celtic won, I think I'm right in saying, was Barcelona in 2004. Obviously excluding qualifiers. That's, for a club Celtic size, that's crazy. And I just think that you've said it, Mick. It's about time Celtic really pulled the result.
Listen, it's not good enough in Europe. I mean, listen, Celtic have been dominant in the home front, and you can't fault them. The business has been run. You can't even fault that. I mean, it's superbly run. They've got a lot of money in the bank. They are a great example of how clubs should be run. Apart from them not getting the results in Europe. I mean, they had some good performances through the years. They got to the last 16 Champions League, 10 years ago? But the last 10 years in Europe has not been good enough. They've not been in the Champions League enough. I mean, they're there, they haven't been competitive enough. Yeah. So at some point, they need to get their act together in Europe. And this would be a great year to do it, given the draw. But I just think I've got this nagging feeling that they've left themselves short in the summer. All this big talk about competing in Europe, I don't know if it's been matched in terms of their window. The manager won't say that. He's been quite positive, and he's refusing to kind of admit that. But he's going to have to pull some rabbits out of the hat in this campaign, Brendan Rodgers. I don't think I keep saying the same phrase. I don't think Celtic needed 8 £3 million players. They needed 3 £8 million players. I keep saying it, and I still think that's the case. I still think the real top European quality players didn't come in the summer. They've got a lot of guys who've got a lot of potential who might go on and be very good players. How many of them will start tonight? I think that's going to be quite telling, because you're talking about building for the Champions League in the summer. How many of the new arrivals will start tonight? Does Palmer start? He's not started the game yet for Celtic. Does he start in place of Yang in the wing? Could bad out, possibly. Does Paulo Bernardo start? Doubt it. Not that much of a pre-season. Odin Holm, all these guys. I mean, Lager Bielka will start because he has to start. So, I mean, talking about recruitment in the summer, not many of these new signings are going to be on the pitch at the start tonight unless they really have to be, which suggests to me that it wasn't a great summer. But they can defy that, all these odds, and make people like myself eat my words if they go and get a result in this campaign and tonight.
Mike, I agree with you, but I agree with you about Europe. But what I'd say is, and I sense this even listening to Brendan Rodgers, that doesn't necessarily mean Champions League for me. That means Europa League, Conference League. No, he's got to get a couple of results in the Champions League, because you need to get third spot to drop into the Europa League. But I just think he's realistic enough to know that Champions League level is just so high now, and probably beyond. The best in Scotland. And when he says Europe after Christmas, to me, that means having a decent Champions League campaign, showing up in that Europa League / Conference League after Christmas. And then I totally agree with you. I mean, that, and Brendan Rodgers has said it himself, that competition is, there's opportunities there to go really far. Rangers showed it a couple of years ago by getting to the final. I think that's the level where they need to go and win games and really progress. And listen, that's no demeaning. These are still big European competitions. So I agree with you that there has to be a change this year. Results need to be better, but that doesn't necessarily mean Champions League. I think if they can get into the Europa League and, as Rodgers says, be in there after the new year, then they'll be doing okay.
No, I agree. I think third place would be a success in the group. But I just think when you look at this section and the way, listen, usually in Champions League you get pot 1 and pot 2 are stinking. I mean, usually it doesn't matter what pot 1 and pot 2. You get top 16 teams in Europe, and you usually get 2 teams that are probably thinking about winning the competition. I don't think anyone in this group is thinking of winning the competition. So this should be an opportunity to get a top 2 place in this group. I mean, never get a better. Listen, they never get a better draw or a better chance. Never get a better chance. But I do agree, if they can compete in the group and be in with a shout to finish top 2, get into the last game, and if they finish third, I think that's a success. If they get in that last game with a chance of getting out the group, I think that's a success. And if they finish third, so yeah, but they've got to be competitive. That's what it is.
Scott, I'm going to put you both on the spot in a minute, but Nicholas McDade here watching on YouTube, he's predicting 2-2 tonight, right? And I, kind of inspired by the win at Ibrox, I think Celtic are going to get a result, right? Kyogo first scorer and 2-0 Celtic. It's 70-1 with the bookies.
Have you been up in Amsterdam? Some of the cafes up there.
Listen, 70-1. You can't. That's worth that's worth 250.
Celtic keep a clean sheet tonight, they'll be doing extremely well. I think they'll just miss it. Daniel, I think they'll put on a decent show. As I said before, I think they'll score. But there's no getting away for the defensive issues. And that's why I've went with to do a wee prediction yesterday, and I've went with 2-1 Feyenoord. I think it'll be a decent game, pretty close, but Celtic will just miss out.
I just think as well, Mick, Kyogo hasn't scored in the Champions League yet, and he'll be right up for that. I think I don't know. I'm confident.
I don't think that's a problem. I think they will get chances, and they might be put a couple away. I just again, I can't see them keep them out. The same as Scott's saying.
What's your score prediction?
I kind of feel the worst for Celtic tonight, to be honest with you. I mean, talk about they keep referencing the game at Ibrox. If they defend the way they defended at Ibrox, for all they kept the clean sheet and kept us out, if they defend that way, they'll get punished tonight. I don't think it was particularly great, especially at times. Rangers finishing was woeful. Let them off the hook, but I just think that they look a bit vulnerable at the moment. So, listen, they might surprise us. I think Celtic fans would be surprised if they got a result tonight.
Have you got an actual scorer? I'm holding you to it.
No, come on, Mick, stop sitting in the fence.
I think I said they get beat 3-1 in the paper. I think I said that. I think that's 3-1. Both teams to score and home win. I think is one for the Cooten.
Listen,
I don't know Cooten up since about 1948. So that's a death right away.
See when it's 2-0 Kyogo and you didn't put it on, guys. Don't come trying. That's all I'm saying. I've warned you in advance. I think that brings us to the end pretty much of today's Record Sport Facebook Live. Guys, enjoy your time in Rotterdam and enjoy the game tonight.
Thank you very much.
And I should say, for everyone leaving the comments, thanks very much. Continue to leave them in the comment section below. And thanks very much for watching. Cheers, guys.